Welcome back to Legal Matters, everyone. I'm your host, Alan Jones. With me now is Mark Brynteson. He's the managing attorney with the American law firm. This is a half-hour informational news call-in show devoted to a variety of legal topics. Attorneys are standing by now to take your call at the number on your screen, 815-394-1776. They'll be able to provide you with free information on your issue. The call is confidential, so pick up the phone now and call the American law firm throughout the next hour. Again, the phone number is 815-394-1776. Our opening statement: what if your relationship with your attorney is not what you want it to be? What can you do about that? Then after a short break, we'll talk about lawsuit crisis management. But first, let me remind you of the multiple practice areas in which the American law firm concentrates. The American law firm can assist you in a variety of legal matters, including divorce and family law, bankruptcy and personal injury claims, criminal, traffic and DUI issues, wills, trust and probate matters, real estate and business transactions, and more. So again, please feel free to call and discuss any of these practice areas with the attorney standing by. The number on your screen, 815-394-1776. Lawyers are standing by right now to take your call. And again, that call is confidential. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, pleasure. Pleasure for you. Happy for you to be here. So let's start right at the beginning. You have hired an attorney. He doesn't turn out to be what you want him to be.
Or she.
Or she. Yeah. Good point. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So what do you do?
Well, you know, a lot goes to when you go in and initially hire the attorney. You need to ask the right questions. And if people want, I have a book on how to fire an attorney, but also how to select an attorney. Mm-hmm. But I think attorneys, too, forget who they work for. When a client hires you, they're the boss. Unless you own the place and you're in the top of the food chain, the attorney is the employee of the client. And a lot of attorneys forget that. So the client needs to understand you shouldn't be intimidated by the relationship. It's a one where you work together. But the client must always remember, and I encourage them to remember, that they are ultimately the boss. Now, the attorney went to law school, they've been practicing, they have the legal knowledge on how to do things. So you're not going to evade that part of the attorney-client relationship. But ultimately, you call the shots. The attorney is there to do the legal work and give you the information you need to make decisions. But if something does go wrong, you can fire the attorney. The only thing you need to be aware of if that happens is the attorney can be paid through his representation, or if you go someplace else and it's a contingency fee case, they can assert a lien on any monies that the other attorney would get. But I think attorneys need to remember who they work for, and I think the client needs to understand also that they control the relationship because they are the employer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. A call to remember, 815-394-1776. Remember that number. You mentioned money. What about the money in this sort of situation? Can the new attorney help you get money from the old attorney?
Well, if the attorney was doing their job and it was a conflict of interest between a relationship, or you just didn't get along with the attorney deserves to be paid if they did a good job up until then. You don't get to get out of paying the attorney just because you don't like something that happened. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they've done the job, they've moved the case forward, and they get paid. But sometimes you do get differences that you really do need to part company, and that's okay. But there's a proper way to do it. There's a good way to do it. And sometimes the attorney needs to back out of the representation too. He finds or she finds something out that they can't be effective because there's some type of conflict, or the relationship is growing apart in such a way that the attorney's starting to protect him or herself from the client, and then the attorney has the responsibility to back out of the representation also. But legal representation can be very volatile, especially in particular areas of law like divorce. Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon to see a divorce client go through 2 or 3 attorneys. None of the prior attorneys did anything wrong, but they get to the point where it's emotionally charged that they just say, you're not doing what I want you to do, but the attorney is doing exactly what the law allows and getting the best result. But the client in an emotionally charged area says that's enough is enough. But in transferring from one area from one attorney to another, the attorneys that you leave deserve to be paid, and the attorney that you go to isn't necessarily going to be able to negotiate a cheaper fee with the other attorney. But again, if it's really something that the minds aren't meeting anymore, sometimes there does need to be a parting of the ways, and that's not bad in every case.
And I guess on the part of the client, there will be time lost. I mean, because you're going to get the new attorney up to speed.
Yeah.
So I guess that has to go into the consideration, I suppose, when switching from one to another.
Oh, absolutely, because when you hire a new attorney, he has to gain all the knowledge that the other attorney has. So that takes time. In fact, it could be effectively more expensive to go to another attorney from a former attorney. Sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not, but that's always going to be a factor, because that attorney that you're going to isn't starting from ground zero. They have to catch up.
Okay, good advice. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about lawsuit crisis management. You're watching Legal Matters with the American Law Firm. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Alan Jones. With me is attorney Mark Brynteson with the American Law Firm, and you're watching Legal Matters, an informational and news call-in show devoted to a variety of legal topics. There are attorneys standing by right now to take your call at the number on your screen. That's 815-394-1776. They'll provide you with free information on your issue. The call is confidential, so pick up the phone now and call the American Law Firm throughout the next hour. Again, that phone number is 815-394-1776. So, Mark, let's talk a little bit about something you say doesn't exist. Frivolous lawsuits seem to be all over the place. It seems like that's all you hear. People filing lawsuits left and right. But you say that's not so.
No, we've talked before about the McDonald's coffee verdict, where 700 people before the person that got the big verdict were injured, including little kids, by the same thing, and they wouldn't adjust their temperature of the coffee. In fact, the person that got the big verdict would have settled for $20,000. McDonald's didn't want to, just to pay her medical bills. They didn't want to, so they got tapped with a $2 million verdict after the jury heard all the stuff that they knew and still wouldn't fix the problem. So when the insurance companies, they'll take, and I think insurance companies invented political spin, because they'll take cases like that and they'll publicize it because they have the money to go on TV and do it and make it sound like that person was ripping off McDonald's, when in reality the facts were vice versa. In fact, the jurors on that case were so ticked off after 60 Minutes did a special, they asked to go on 60 Minutes and tell their side, and I remember the 60 Minutes reporters were apologizing to them because they didn't get the whole scoop. And they're the professionals, they were supposed to get the whole scoop. So when you really look at the cases, and all the ones that have come down, the ladder case, the telephone booth case, they were very legitimate cases. They've just taken one part out of context and didn't tell the truth about it. So that's really a large problem with trial lawyers, when, especially in the personal injury realm, going into a jury trial, is to get jurors that aren't totally biased and also try to convince them that this is a legitimate issue that you're here on, that you're just not trying to get money for a client. And what a lot of them never hear is you can't tell the jury that there's an insurance company behind the client. The insurance companies have bought the state legislatures and make sure the state law is you cannot tell them. So they really don't have the whole story. There is no lawsuit crisis.
Okay, so those jurors who believe there is a crisis, how do you convince them otherwise? You said that it's difficult to change their mind, so how do you find them in the first place?
Well, number one, you have to start from this knowledge. When you go to court, you never get to tell them that the client's $12,000 in debt. That they have bills, but they're in debt. They still owe the bills. And the insurance company tried to blackmail them to take a lower settlement because the bill collectors are calling, their credit scores are going down. You can't mention that to the jury. So they have a thing called voir dire. That's where you can question potential jurors before the case starts, and you try to see which ones are open and they're open-minded to say, okay, I'm going to listen to this. I may have a little bias against this and giving people money for injuries, but I'm open to hearing what's going on, and that's what you want. A lot of times you'll get jurors and they're honest enough to raise their hand and say, hey, I don't think anybody should get money in any circumstance for an injury. They're honest enough to say it. Sometimes they may not want to be on the jury, and that'll get them off.
Yeah.
But some will. What you're looking for is people that will be open-minded and listen to what's going on. And I mean, I would challenge anybody out there listening to this show or to go online. You can go to the online now to a lot of the courts, and Google or try to find out how many personal injury cases of all the cases that are filed down at a particular court. It could be here in Winnebago, it could be Boone County, it could be Stevenson County, it could be Ogle County. If you go down there and take a look, it's a very small percentage that's personal injury cases. The ones that are taking up the docket are divorce, criminal, and divorce and criminal and corporate or business suing business or collection matters. Personal injury is such a small portion of those cases. But the insurance companies and big companies, big Fortune 500 companies, want you to think that's the only type of case that's out there. And it's just not. It's just not.
But that gets all the noise.
That gets all the noise. Yes, that's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. That's very, very interesting and informative. People pay attention to that.
And let me say one thing. If people would like books or anything, information, I have ones on how to hire an attorney, choose an attorney, what a claim's about, how to put a claim together. They can write in and get that. Be glad to send them so they can see how to manage a personal injury claim or what they're about.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Mark. And again, that number, 815-394-1776. We'll be back with some closing thoughts in just a moment.